From Wimbledon to Berlin, from Paris to Trieste Photo Days. Adam Preti, an international photographer and one of the most innovative and influential sports photographers, will be a guest of the 11th edition of Trieste Photo Days Festival, from October 25th to 27th. He will be a special guest of the project Play, Let the Game Begin, which is dedicated to sport in all its forms, and will also be a judge of the 15th edition of the Urban Photo Awards. Adam, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. It's great to be here.
You've just been at Paris Olympics. It must have been quite an experience. What's next for you?
Next, I have a few days off, I hope. The Olympics and then followed by the Paralympics was pretty full on, like a lot of work, lots of hours, lots of late nights, but it was an amazing experience. Definitely one of the better Olympics and Paralympics I've done. The Paralympics were absolutely amazing. The crowds, the fans, the atmosphere was probably like nowhere else I've been so far for a Paralympics. Next up, a few days off, and then I think I've just got a couple of commercial jobs coming up, so a little bit more advertising work before getting back into regular sort of sports photography.
Perfect, nice. Let's start from the beginning. How did you start your journey as a photographer?
I started photography back in high school in Sydney, in Australia. I would have been about 15, 16 years old, and I saw an exhibition of two sports photographers, Craig Golding and Tim Clayton. They had an exhibition at the Sydney Opera House, and I went and saw it. And I was kind of already interested in photography, but then when I saw this body of sports photography altogether, I knew that was what I wanted to do. So I just started photographing sport at my school, at my high school, and kind of learned from there. I bought their book and I taught myself to print in a darkroom in my my mum and dad's laundry from then. So I was doing that for a couple of years while I finished high school. And then after high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I started going to university. It was a visual communications degree with photography, but I wanted to work sort of more than go to university. So I kept looking around, and then a job came up at the Sydney Morning Herald newspaper. And I was really fortunate to get that job. And so I deferred university or stopped university for 1 year, but then never went back. I just stayed with the newspaper. And that job was working in the Mac room, which was around about the time when newspapers were switching from purely analog to sort of mixture of analog and digital. So we'd still shoot film, but then we'd scan the film rather than print the film in the darkroom. And because I'd used computers, things like that before at school and was young, like 17, 18 years old, I knew how to use a computer pretty well. I was, able to get a job at the newspaper and then started from there.
Very cool. So when did you when did you realize that you wanted to make sport photography your career?
Oh, I mean, to make sports photography as my career was a dream from when I was probably 16, 17 years old. I didn't think it was possible, but I wanted to try everything I could to make that happen. And then at the newspaper, I was sort of doing news photography and then sport on the weekends and my free times, maybe nighttime. If there was a game on that the other photographers weren't doing, I would go and do that. And then when All Sport came and set up an office in Sydney, they were hiring a junior photographer as well as a senior guy. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to try and do that. And then so I applied for that job with All Sport, who then became Getty Images. And probably when I got that job, then that's when I realized that it was a possibility to be a full-time sports photographer and make a career out of photographing sport. So that would have been, I think, 1998 when that kind of dream came true.
Very nice. Okay. So you have won numerous prestigious awards, including several World Press Photos Awards. Which of these awards has meant the most to you and why?
I've been very fortunate over the years to win a number of awards. Probably I think my first award ever would have been the IOC Best of Sport award. I still remember when it happened. I was at a court job for the newspaper, photographing people outside courtrooms after their cases were decided, sort of thing. So it wasn't very glamorous. And then I got a call from a colleague telling me I came third. And I grew up looking at these books. It was the IOC Best of Sport Award. And that's what I love looking at that and getting inspiration from those books. And then I managed to get a third place. And then pretty soon after that, it was the Sydney Olympics. So I left the newspaper and then I started working at All Sport, and I photographed all the test events up to the Sydney Olympics. And then in the year 2000, that's when I won my first World Press photo. And that was, again, probably the most special. Was like it was my dream to win a World Press award, but then it happened so early in my career. Yeah, I remember, I think I found out at night time because of the time difference from Australia to Amsterdam, and I couldn't sleep. So I went down to the beach at like 4 o'clock in the morning, started surfing. And then I had an accident. I hit my head on my board, cut my head open. I was bleeding, but it didn't matter. I was just so excited about the award. So that's probably my two strongest memories of awards, and my I think nothing can sort of beat your first early awards for sure.
It's amazing. Okay. In your career, you have captured numerous professional sporting events, including several Olympics and the Doha Aquatics Championship in 2024. What was the most memorable moment you captured during these sporting events?
For like recently, probably Doha, it would have been a few actually. One was when the USA synchronized swimming team or artistic swimming team qualified for Paris. Just the emotions that were on display there, and I was fortunate to capture, being in the right place to capture. That was amazing. That will stay with me for a long time. It was just an enormous release of emotions and joy, relief, everything kind of happening at once in like a second or two. So that was really, really memorable. Overall, it's hard to say. I've been photographing sport for more than 25 years. Maybe going back to the Sydney Olympics, the first day of the Olympics even was the triathlon. And I was in the water in Sydney Harbour photographing that. So that was pretty memorable, a bit scary as well. Trying not to think about sharks while sort of swimming around in the harbour for a few hours. But yeah, I mean, a lot. And then I guess one of the most emotional memories would have been also Sydney Olympics when Kathy Freeman won the 400 meters on the track and field. Just the stadium was 110, 120,000 people. And, being a 400-meter race, she started and went all the way around the track. And I remember just hearing like a wall of noise follow her around the whole track. And then it just went crazy when she won. It wasn't kind of cheering anymore. It was just distortion. Like kind of your ears almost started bleeding. It was that loud. So that was pretty amazing. And to have an Aboriginal woman do that at home in front of a home crowd, that was phenomenal and something I'll never forget.
Okay, fantastic. So you have been invited as a special guest for the Play Let the Game Begin project, which delves into sports as both a competitive activity and a form of leisure. An extensive exhibition featuring also your work will be held during the Trieste Photo Days at the end of October. While waiting to host you in Trieste, let's pick the curiosity of our readers with some previews. Considering your extensive portfolio of sport photography, what strategies do you use to keep your creativity fresh and innovative in capturing unique moments?
I mean, to try and stay fresh and relevant, it's pretty tough, but I'll look at like new technology, whether it be an underwater robotic camera, which we're fortunate to be using now. That's kind of pushed my underwater photography to the next level. So I think you always want to, have the tools to help you do the job, but you don't just need that. You need to, I guess, find a different way of looking at things. And if people are doing one thing, maybe you try something else. This can be like as simple as just shooting a slower shutter speed when you probably shouldn't, like maybe just to experiment a little more. Or again, yeah, getting something that can capture pictures in a unique way, like the underwater robotic, which, is kind of at the forefront of technology, at least for me, for us. And that gives you like the opportunity to do something different. And I think that's important with sport, especially at big events like the Olympics, is to just kind of have something a little bit unique, to push things a little bit further than what anyone else might be doing, so that your work is noticed and then hopefully published, just because it is like a little bit more fresh, and catches the eye, a bit differently from all the other, photography that's around.
Yeah, very cool. What composition principle do you find essential for conveying action and emotion in sports photography?
I don't know if I have like a principle. I mean, I love graphics. I love the work of painter Jeffrey Smart when I was growing up, and that's stuck with me, for the last 25 years. I want sort of nothing out of place. Um, but then that's a rule that I break as well. So, but yeah, I would always look at my background and getting a perfect kind of background just so the canvas is there, and then wait for the subject to come to me or into the frame. So that's probably one of the rules I do. Like the first thing I'll do at an event is, yeah, go and find the best possible background and best possible canvas to capture the action and emotion on. Because I think even if you do capture that perfect emotion, if you don't have a good background and it doesn't look good and it's nice, then I don't feel like I've nailed the shot. And the same goes for action. You need to have a number of different layers and elements combined to make a nice sports photograph. At least in my opinion, it doesn't just mean you've got the moment. You need the moment plus the light plus the composition, and that's when you start getting kind of interesting work, I think.
Can you describe a situation where your composition decision made a significant difference in the final outcome of the photo?
Yeah, I mean, I hope all my work is a little bit like that, like because you are making conscious decisions on composition all the time. Um, Specifically, um, yeah, I mean, I can I don't know. That's tough, yeah, because as I said, I'm trying to do that all the time. I mean, probably when you put like a remote camera up, because you are locking your composition down, you can't change it. So I remember, yeah, again, going back Sydney Olympics, I photographed the men's weightlifting, and there was like a beautiful composition you could frame up from the roof, looking down on the weightlifting, and then you just had to wait for the athlete to do something. And I'd done a bit of research, and I saw there was an athlete, Ronnie Weller. He was a German weightlifter, heavyweight weightlifter, and I'd seen him in Atlanta in 1996 from on TV, when I was at school, and he won and he went crazy. And I thought, oh, I'd love to get something like that. Maybe he'll do that in Sydney. So I set up that picture, got the composition perfect with the logo, like the whole setting was there. And then he did go pretty crazy, not as crazy as probably in Atlanta, but he went, really, really celebrated well. And I thought, oh yeah, I've nailed the picture. This is fantastic. And then the funny thing happened after. Next, another weightlifter came out who hadn't even done a lift yet. And then he won the gold with one lift. He was a Iranian athlete. And then he basically just, did the lift, walked off, did nothing. So the best picture was of Ronnie, and that it did come down to the composition as well as his emotion. And then the news angle, though, wasn't really there, but the picture kind of has stuck with me. So I think that's probably a good example.
Very interesting. Okay. Uh, were there any instances where luck played a key role in capturing a crucial moment during a sporting event? If so, how did you handle that situation?
I mean, I don't know if I would ever say there's luck involved. You prepare as a sports photographer, you prepare, you're never blind to what might happen. You know, if it was luck, like, you know, my camera went off accidentally, it was on my shoulder and it went off accidentally, and wow, there's a great picture, but that's never happened to me. So I don't know, you know, like luck seems to happen to people that are the best prepared. That would kind of be a bit of a motto. And, you know, something I would, a philosophy my sports photography lives by. Like you, as I said, you see the people that get lucky most often are the people that are there the longest, the people that put in the most preparation, things like that. So I wouldn't really consider myself like a lucky sports photographer. I mean, other people might see it differently. Like things happen in front of you and it can, yeah. I mean, of course, you go to a football game, there's four corners of the stadium. I mean, you don't know where the goal is going to be scored. So if you keep getting that goal, it's not to do, yeah, with your preparation, then that could, I consider that could be quite lucky. But I don't think any of my favorite pictures or memorable pictures have been from something like that. But yeah, that would be the only thing that I would consider to be lucky is when, yeah, the emotion or the action keeps going your direction. Because yeah, you could never know how the game will play out. So yeah, sorry, that was not a very good answer.
Yes, okay, sure. Um, when conditions change suddenly during a shot, how do you adapt your photographic strategy to achieve the best possible result?
I think if conditions are changing and you get something unexpected, that's kind of what I want to happen almost. I mean, it's not nice because you have to start again and think again. But I think some of my best photography happens when you get that unexpected thing or the condition changes because you know you are reacting almost on instinct. I find if I've got the opportunity to think about something too long, I'll work it and work it, and it's not fresh. It lacks a bit of a spark. Like you'll see it, and it looks kind of tired already. But if you do get that, like you know, that light pops just for a second, or the water flies in, you know, just in that millisecond, that's when you get something special. So I would say, yeah, be ready for those changing conditions. Like, be prepared for something that might happen, and try and plan for what the best possible scenario that could happen at an event and go for that. You know, it's going to happen 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 times. But if you are prepared for that, then you've got the best chance to capture that. And I think that's what you want to go for as a sports photographer for sure. But yeah, don't be afraid of changing conditions because that's when you're going to get your best work and get your best pictures for sure.
Okay, nice. And what is your favorite sport to photograph?
My favorite sport to photograph would be kind of anything involving water, I think,
Yes.
just because of the unpredictability, the light with water. You know, it's unique. You never know what's going to happen. You do get that unexpected element every single time. You can't plan for it. You know, you don't know which way the water's going to fall, how the light's going to hit it, and that's what I love about with the water as well. So that's yeah, that would be my favorite kind of subject apart from you know sport.
Okay, the photo of the 2004 Summer Olympic Games in Athens, featuring Jan Thorpe, won the first prize in 2005 photo contest sports. Can you describe how was it taken?
Yeah, so the crazy thing was like that picture I took 20 years ago. This week I was back in Athens at the Olympic pool for the first time in 20 years. So I got back home from Athens yesterday. So I've never been back to that pool, and I was back in that venue, and I had those memories when I walked in there. I was thinking, seeing the same angle. Oh wow, that's where I took that picture. But yeah, I was literally just at the top of the grandstands, trying to look for something a little bit different, an angle that hadn't been shot many times before. You know, I took a bit of a risk shooting a slow shutter speed. The Olympics is kind of not the place you want to risk missing pictures, but you know, you have to, I guess, trust yourself or back yourself sometimes. So yeah, I just slowed the camera down to maybe a 15th of a second, something like that. And then I practiced on maybe some of the other races, which weren't as important, at least for getting images. And then Thorpe was the big event. And then yeah, I was fortunate to be able to capture that picture. But yeah, it was literally the top of the grandstand among the fans, and just wanted to try something a little bit different. And it kind of worked out. So that was great.
Very interesting. Okay. Recently, you started directing and shooting video projects. What inspired you to explore this new medium, and what challenges did you face when transitioning from photography to video?
Yeah, again, it was just that whole thing is, when you get in your comfort zone, which sport photography I am fairly comfortable with now after a long time. I wanted to push myself to do something new, because I think it's when you're, out of your comfort zone and you're making mistakes, that's when you're going to start getting fresh work or new work. And video and directing was an opportunity to do that. And I could also bring, my strengths as a sports photographer, editorial sport or commercial sports photography into that world, and hopefully could offer something new, from my perspective, and not be, constrained by the rules that maybe if you just did video, that's what you kind of obeyed, and that's how you develop your career. My career took a different path, and then I can step in later, but bring, I guess, my expertise, my eye, my vision to something different. And that's what I wanted to try and do is put, I guess, my take on films and my little video and directing as well. And I'm of course I'm biased because it's my own work, but I'm kind of happy and it's worked out quite well. So it's something I want to keep trying to do. And again, like, keep pushing myself to make those mistakes so you don't get comfortable and feel like you can relax. I think that's when you relax, that's kind of dangerous as a photographer and creative person, just because then you just start producing the same tired work over and over and over again. And that's not what I want to do.
Okay, cool. In addition to sport photography, you have also worked on advertising project. How does your approach differ when working on advertising project compared to sport projects?
I guess advertising differs quite a lot because you're constrained to what the client wants. So you're shooting much more to a brief. And I mean, that happens editorially as well when I have to shoot to a brief. But once you've got that, you can branch out. So I guess you're a little bit more restricted in your creativity and how you can express yourself, because you are delivering almost someone else's creative or dream. But then if you have sometimes I've had the opportunity where you can, once you've got the brief ticked, the box is ticked, then you can experiment and push things a bit further. So I don't see it as so different. I mean, I like it just because of the challenge of dealing with more people, and you're not just like an observer. You're creating that situation, and you need to recreate, whether it be a sports photo you have to do. So it's down to you, and that's a challenge rather than just capturing the moment. But again, it's something that I love because it does push me out of my comfort zone. Then I can do that for a while. Then I can come back to editorial sport, and that's fresh again. And then if I jump back into advertising, haven't done it for a little while, then I have to start again, and then it becomes fresh and difficult, which is good, which is what I kind of want, which is to keep pushing myself so that I don't become too comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that was an answer.
Okay, so this year you are one of the judges of the 15th edition of Urban Photo Awards. You will announce the winner of the projects and portfolio section on Saturday, 26th October at the Trieste Photo Days. As a judge of the project section, what qualities do you look for in the works of the participants, and what aspect of photographs interest you the most?
I think now, I mean, I looked at something that speaks to me, that challenges me a little bit. Often things I like is if I see a photographer approach a subject and I go, wow, I'd never have thought of doing it that way. That's what I want to see, something, not shocking as such, but just putting, their name or their take on something, like a fresh approach. That's probably original approach. That's probably the biggest thing I look for. I like to see things technically well executed as well. Like everything, like nothing kind of out of place. So I like a bit like a clean image sometimes. But yeah, again, what I said before in my own photography, I look for like a number of different elements that can add up and represent a subject or story in that way. So it's not just like a one-dimensional picture. It needs more than that. So that's what I'm kind of looking for.
How important is the storytelling within a photograph for you compared to the technical aspect?
Yeah, I mean, for me, they're equally important. I think if you've got one, but not the other, it's going to lack something. So yeah, maybe it's okay for a picture, on the day, but then I think to be a great picture, you need to have both storytelling as well as, technical thing and also graphics, things like that. So yeah, I think probably equally important. I mean, but as I said, it depends on the story. But for sport is entertainment a little bit. So you're not telling the greatest story in the world or the story that's going to impact people's lives so much. So I think on that side of things, you might want to have a bit more technical and graphics and beauty to the picture. Whereas if it was a purely like a news moment and you are telling like a big story, like a reportage story, like on something very significant, I think the story is very important. As opposed to like, oh, wow, the exposure is not exactly 100% right. So I think then it changes with different sorts or different types of photography for sure.
Okay, perfect. In October, we will see you in Trieste at the 11th edition of Trieste Photo Days, International Photography Festival. Adam, is this your first time in Trieste?
Yes, it will be my first time in Trieste. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it.
Nice. And what made you accept the invitation to participate in Trieste Photo Days?
I guess I had a chat with Stefan, and I'd never been before, and I haven't really ever done any kind of photo festivals before. So the dates worked out quite well. I mean, the schedule was good. And yeah, I mean, I spoke to a couple of other photographers who'd been and said it was great opportunity. So I thought, why not? And I think, I guess stage in my career now where getting a bit older, been around a while. So it's good to try and share a bit more, I think, and hopefully share some of my experiences with some younger photographers. It's what I try and do is, pass on my knowledge and expertise and help the next generation. So I hope that's kind of what I can do there as well. Just have a dialogue with other photographers, other people, and spread the word, spread my
Yes,
love.
exactly. During the festival, you will also conduct a workshop. So, could you provide a preview of what you will cover and what you hope participants will learn from your workshop?
Uh, well, I'm going to have to start thinking about that now. I mean, it's going to be on sports photography for sure. And I guess my approach and what I think hopefully a successful approach to sports photography might be now in this present day. But I don't think it's really changed from when I started. So I would I would just hope to reinforce, like that original thinking, find your own vision, your own way, and stay true to that throughout your career because there's going to be some times where, your work is not popular. But, I've been around long enough now that, you'll be popular in 1999, then those next 5 years, maybe your style's not there, but then you're back again in, 2005. And there is trends, there is things that change pretty rapidly. So, if you've got something, maybe it's not working now, but stay true to it if that's what you want to do. Don't just go changing your style or your outlook just because it fits the current trends. I think art directors and editors, people who are going to publish your work, if your work is true to itself and true to you and your vision, it's going to speak to people eventually. I mean, maybe not in the next 6 months, but stick with it for sure.
Okay, so last question. What is your favorite sport to practice?
Practice, yes, that's all. Yeah, I mean uh, I still love being in the water. I mean, living in Munich is probably not the best place to
Mm-mm.
be for that. I love rock climbing as well. Like I used to do a lot of surfing, swimming when I was in
Mm.
Australia, but then since moving to Beijing and then now to Europe, probably climbing, it gives you the opportunity to be
Mm.
outdoors and just switch off your brain completely from any other thought because it's something you really need to concentrate on. When you're climbing, you're completely focused, and you can't really have other distractions. So that's what I like about it. And just you can see the beauty of light, nature, things like that, and then it gives you inspiration and ideas for pictures too. So yeah, I like it because of that as well. That's I'm sorry, going a bit long, but that's with my swimming. I saw a lot of pictures when I was swimming as a child, and I
Mm.
remember thinking that, oh, that would be a good picture. And then when I started photography, then I realized, oh, I could take these pictures. So you kind of fill your brain up with memories, and then go and try and capture those memories after, which is what I kind of like as well. So yeah, inspiration from nature and light, things like that.
Mm-mm. Okay, Adam, thank you for your time. Now, before we say goodbye, would you like to end with say you at Trieste Photo Days Festival for all our readers and listeners?
Yeah, I can't wait to see everyone at the Trieste Photo Festival, the photo days, the workshop. Really looking forward to it. So hopefully catch up with you there.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.